Hello and welcome back to the Nothing Notable podcast. Today we are going to do something a little bit different. You know, we've been talking a lot about movies and TV shows the last few months, and we wanted to sort of talk about ourselves a little bit more. We're all trying to go into the film industry, the television industry, and so it's something that we talk about a lot off mic, but we don't usually talk about on mic. And so for today, we kind of wanted to talk about some of our creative failures, because I think for the most part, we post about our successes, but we never really talk about our failures, even though those are the things that make you who you are as an artist. You know, it's the thing that helps you grow the most is a failure. And so let me just throw this out there. Anyone can answer it. Give me a creative failure that you've had, let's say in the past year, and then we could go back even further than that to maybe more meaningful ones.
I'm going to go broad with this, but I will say that in the past year, and again, this isn't any fault of my own, but I think it's just how the world has been. In many ways, I feel like my biggest failure in the last year is that I haven't done much.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Right there with you, sister.
The thing is, it's not true because we've all done a lot of things. But the idea is that, and I talk about this with you guys all the time. I talk about it with my roommate, who's also an artist, a different field, but he makes incredible art, just like painting and like drawing. Shout out to Dylan Jones. I will just say Shout out.
Hell yeah.
But we have this conversation a lot, and it feels like the last year, we like blinked and the last year is gone, and we're all about to turn 24. And it's this weird feeling of like, well, you guys still have a little time. Jack just turned 23 like a few months ago. But anyways, like in November, I turned
old ass man
24. But fucking
You're so much older than us.
We're like we're not even like we're like 6 months apart. Anyways, but it feels like in many ways the last year you haven't been able to do anything, and when you do something, it doesn't feel fulfilling. It doesn't feel real because it's just hard to share things right now, and it's hard to be an artist and be working on something and be like, this is good, because the whole last year has just been really shitty. And we talked about it on our pandemic pod, our little pandy pod. I don't know why I said that. Someone called it a pandy at a comedy show I went to, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of funny.
That's my favorite type of sandwich. A pandy?
Yeah, pandy.
Ooh,
nice grilled pandy.
But it's that feeling that the pandemic has really sucked out a lot of creative juices from people. And I feel like that has been my biggest failure in the last year. I feel like I haven't done anything, but I have done stuff. And again, we're in a transitional phase in our life. And that's why I think we're all just finishing college. Like that transition is really hard. And then I think, like many things in the pandemic, it just exacerbates everything. So like a transition out of college is difficult in general. A transition out of college in a pandemic is even harder.
No, absolutely. I 100% hear and feel everything that you are saying. I feel like at the start of, quarantine 15 years ago or whenever it was at this point now, feel like it's been forever. But everyone was like, you got to write the next King Lear. You got to make the next great American novel. And it's like, at this, King Lear is my favorite American novel, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because it is American and it is a novel.
There was a comma in between those two clauses there that I want people to know. I'm not that stupid.
Yet.
I'm not that stupid yet. Just wait like 14 minutes and I'll get there. But as I was saying, like there's this pressure to like, you have all this free time now. You got to make something great. And the reality is just like getting through the last 16 months or however long it's been is like an accomplishment of its own. I think about like, I haven't made like diddly shit in the pandemic. Like I've written a couple things here and there, but I don't have like one project I've made that like I can hang my hat on. And sometimes I feel very shitty about that. But then I'm like, okay, I was also for 6 months taking 6 classes and working 35 hours a week. And even when my classes were done, I was still working all the time at a school in like pandemic conditions. And also just, trying to get through with my own mental health struggles and whatnot. And, we have made something. We've been doing a podcast every week for almost a year now.
That's true.
Which
Wait, what?
Wait, Tyler, do you not know we're recording you?
No, I thought we were just hanging out. And the 3.5 hours we spent prepping for this before really feels like that. No. Continue, Jack.
Yeah.
But yes, we've literally been doing a podcast every week for almost a year.
we literally
Haven't missed a week.
Haven't missed a week yet, especially since 2021 has started. I don't remember what the original question was. I'm still like 10 minutes away from when I'm allowed to be really dumb. But just like getting through the last freaking year and a half has been like an accomplishment. And yeah,
Let's stay on the pandemic for a second, because like I think part of the struggle, because same thing here. Like I haven't written anything, like not even maybe like a page.
Yeah, I've written a couple pages.
3
That's
months,
about it.
give or take. Yeah, and like part of the excuse that I have is also like on my off days I'll edit the podcast or like we'll record the podcast, and then like I try to do other things like exercise and all that stuff that just takes a bunch of time, meal prepping, stupid stuff like that just takes up a bunch of time. So that's my excuse.
Eating is stupid.
Eating is so stupid. I wish we didn't have to do it. But so I really haven't done much writing. I've been editing stuff, re-editing old stuff. But for the most part, I talked about this on the pandemic pod, but like the one thing I am happy about is that I focused in on what is interesting to me as a storyteller and like what I want to make going forward. So I do think it was somewhat of a productive year, but the great failure is that I just didn't do anything with all of that free time like you guys are talking about. Part of it is on you. Part of it's also because of the pandemic. Part of it's a bunch of things. I know I definitely am a procrastinator, so I'm in some ways using the pandemic as an excuse to continue to procrastinate, while simultaneously it is actually affecting the way I write, because I gain most of my inspiration for stories and characters and events and things from being out in the world. And so not being out in the world, not experiencing things, not being able to find a funny scene on the bus, definitely it affected the way that it led to the reason that I wasn't able to write very much this year. And as we're starting to come out of lockdown and we're in the world again, I'm finding so much more inspiration again because I'm actually out there. So you could see the direct correlation there.
That guy with the cane.
That guy with the cane that we saw the other night. That's right, Jack. Shout out. But I think because that is sort of like the general failure is the lack of work that we did. Because you see people like Bo Burnham, who we've talked about and we did a whole pod about. He made like a great work of art during the pandemic. And that's what, like you said, that's what we were all supposed to do. We were supposed to write King Lear, the great American novel.
Can I say something though? Can I say something?
Yes, please, Tyler.
And I don't want to speak
we've been
for
over this every single week. You're not allowed to say anything.
Yeah, the podcast. I'll say this about Bo Burnham. He feels exactly the same way as we do. And like he made something incredible, but he feels exactly the same way in the sense that he feels like he hasn't done anything. And the thing is, like, this is what if most, if not all, artists have felt the last year, because especially in our art form, which is like super about people and experiences, like that is just difficult to do when you can't do it.
Because most of our inspiration comes from external forces, and we've been limited to the amount of external forces that we have in our lives over the last year or almost 2 years. Jesus Christ.
Jeez, yeah.
But because of that, I did notice that for me now, even though I'm still not writing as much as I'd like to, I did shift the focus of the subject matter to internal forces. I instead of writing about a scene that I saw on the bus, I'm now writing about me and the way I'm feeling about something else, which I do think is a positive change. But we have talked about the pandemic before, so let's jump back before the pandemic. We could always come back to it as well. But is there a significant creative failure that you think really affected the way that you do your art. A singular event in your life when you worked on a project and it turned out poorly and it made a really positive impact on your career going forward.
Yeah, I have something.
Please.
It's not what you guys think it is.
We proceed to list all of your credits.
This is like a hard thing to discuss, I think, because like I think it ended up being a good thing for me. But the important part about failure and what I would like to discuss in this podcast is that failure always leads to something better, regardless of what it is. I truly believe that. I wrote a whole speech about failure for like graduation. Failure is an important thing that everyone needs to experience, even though it fucking sucks. And yeah, so in third grade, so in third grade at my elementary school that you guys know, I can't say it here because I don't know. We had something called a monologue night. I don't know if you guys had that.
No.
But a bunch of kids had to audition. Patricia Turner was the teacher at the time, but that's why she ran it. So like third, fourth, and fifth graders all had a monologue night where they got to pick their monologue. They auditioned in class, and if Pat saw something in them, she would put them up for like a monologue night, and that would be on like a Thursday or Friday night. All the parents were invited. It was like a show. It got us started in thinking like of after school shows and stuff like that. So in third grade, I was like kind of, not into theater too much, and everyone had to audition with a monologue, and I chose a monologue from Pirates of the Caribbean, which is like not really a monologue. It was like 3 lines. It was like 3 to 10 lines or something. It wasn't that long. Anyways, I was so embarrassed when I was auditioning that I cried through the entire thing. I cried through the whole thing. It was really hard for me. I was like scared to do it in front of my teachers or in front of my peers. And my teacher was talking to Pat about it. And she's like, it's so weird because like he reads in front of like people in class and stuff. But I guess it comes down to like him showing something that he found and like doing it. And that's what scares him, or like something like that. And I was just frightened to like share anything with my peers. So then, sorry that this is kind of long-winded.
This is great.
Then, I do the audition. I cry through the whole fucking thing. And then the next day, the kids who got chosen for the monologue night is posted, and I'm like walking over and I'm like, well, I just fucking cried, so there's no way I'm gonna be there. Like there's no fucking way, because I cried through the whole thing, and that was my thing. I was like crying at the end of the monologue in the audition, and then Pat was like, give us an R, Tyler, and she would play the piano, and she was like playing the piano to it, and I was like, R. Like I was like sad, and I was like trying to do it. And then I was walking up to the thing, and someone I ended up going to college with, funnily enough, like bumps into me, and she's all like, oh dude, congratulations on monologue night. And I was like, sorry, what? Like what? I'm like, she's joking. It's a joke. And I go up, and I was chosen for monologue night. And I was like, that is so fucking weird. And then, I get it, I'm excited. I think it's cool. I'm just worried I'm going to fucking cry my eyes out during it. But then we get prepped up. I dress like Jack Sparrow, and I do it. I do the whole thing, and I don't cry at all. I do in front of an entire room. I do my monologue. And I'm about to cry now because it's emotional. But I didn't cry then. And it boggled my mind that my teacher saw that in me, that she saw that I could do that. And I think my failure in itself was like not believing I could do it. But, who believed in me was my drama teacher at the time. And I think that whole failure really taught me that, one, I'm good at it, but two, like I like doing it. And I like really want to do this for the rest of my life. Like I want to perform for the rest of my life. And if that failure didn't happen to me, if I didn't cry through a minute-long monologue when I was in third grade, and if my teacher didn't see me and was like, you know what, I'm going to risk it. Like, I mean, what's the word? I mean, for her money, it's like the worst thing that could happen is he just cries there and like, then he just doesn't do another monologue night. But I think it's a very important story for me growing up about failure and understanding that just because I'm biffing it the whole time, like I'm crying, I'm doing it, I still had a little something in me that she saw, and that's how I kind of go with my career going forward. Like, regardless, I know there's something in there, and if someone sees it and picks up on it, like, I think I'm going to be fine.
That's beautiful. And I think that one of the reasons, I'll speak for all of us, but definitely for me, that we all love film is because it's there's so much about visibility there, and it's like who's being depicted and what's being depicted, and in moments like that, it's sort of like moment of truth moments when you're seen like your teacher saw you. That's life changing, and I think we've all had moments like that. I definitely did in high school drama as well. Just like I didn't think that I had any aptitude for theater, for the creative arts in any way, and then our drama teacher was just like, no, you have something, and then just that little moment just allows you to be like, oh, well, let me try even harder. Like let me really give this a go, because especially for me, like I had such low self-esteem that all it took was just that gentle pat on the back to be like, you are here. Like you're not a ghost floating in the corner. You know, you're actually like a physical. You're here. You know, and I see you and I recognize you. So I definitely connect with that story, and I think that's the case for a lot of people too. I think that will resonate with a lot of people that hopefully listen to this. Jack, how about you? Do you have a significant failure?
Not like how do I phrase this? I had a teacher in college who was my stand-up teacher, and he told me, I will never forget this. I did my set, and he told me, I like your jokes, I just don't like you. First of all, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Second of all, it kind of in a way almost like reinforced this like imposter syndrome that I've had in my head my whole life. This idea of imposter syndrome that I've had where I'm like, I ain't shit. And that's something that him saying that like made me think of again, because this was so I went to one liberal arts school with a bunch of other talented people, and when I got there, I right away was like, oh, all these people are so much funnier and more talented than me. And then like when I left the school, because I was depressed and shit, I was like, oh, they're actually not. And like I had a learning moment then, and then I get to this other school and my teacher tells me that, and I'm like, oh, now I just feel like where I was 2 years ago again, thinking I ain't shit. Motherfucker fucked me up with that comment.
Yeah. What did you what have you gained from that since? Or are you just like, damn, that fucking sucked?
Well, it did fucking suck. And then
And it does, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think, Jack, can I say something? Because I think you're very talented.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
I think you're awesome, and I love you.
That was
Thanks,
really
buddy.
sweet.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot. I love you too. And I think you're talented. I felt like I had to say you're talented after
You don't have to
after
say
I
that.
said I
No,
love
you
you
don't
too.
know.
Because it's implied. I think you know that I think you know that I think you're talented. That sentence didn't make sense. But I felt like if I didn't vocalize that back, it would seem like I love you, but I don't think you're talented.
On the podcast, yes. For the three other people.
But no, it made me feel like shit until like a few months later when I performed somewhere else, not in front of that guy, and people really enjoyed what I did. And I'm like, oh, that guy's just a piece of shit. It's not my fault necessarily. It was this idea to me that like you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, right? And this could come in like a whole bunch of different facets of life, like just your like personality, yourself, to your friends, to like, you know, your dating life, your creative life, whatever it may be. Not everyone's going to love you, but that doesn't mean that like it's necessarily a you problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with that sentiment. Like for one of my short films that I shot a couple of years ago, my co-director was like, oh, I sent this to my buddy who did film for a long time, blah, blah, blah. He's like this Russian guy. And he's like, and he just like hated your performance. And I was like, why are you telling me this? This is
this?
weird. And again, it was a similar thing. It was like, it hurt for a second, but I realized it was like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything. And also, like, I cannot please everyone with anything. Like, with a performance, with like a bit, it's just like some people are not going to like you and there's nothing you can do about that. And like even some people who we jokingly hate on a lot, like Eddie Redmayne is, I don't hate the guy, okay? Sometimes there's just something about him. But the thing is, I think he's very talented. Hey, Eddie Redmayne, I think you're very talented. I'll say that about him,
If
okay?
you're listening.
And I love
If
you.
you're listening, and I love you, okay? But, and Jack, the same thing can be said about you and another, like, comedian. It's just like...
Oh, Rob Riggle?
Rob Riggle, yeah.
Look, Rob Riggle's very... I don't got to do this right now, but to get back to the point here, before we blow smoke up Rob Riggle's ass, like, to me, what that also did to me was, like, light a fire under me, because I like proving people wrong. Like, and I feel like a lot, like, I don't want to be one of those people who are like, I've had everyone doubt me and the haters hate me, because, you know, people don't fucking think shit of me. But like, I like made myself think that like I had to prove that guy wrong. So like I worked harder then, and you know, I had a different teacher. First of all, I had that guy as a teacher in another class a year later, and he didn't remember my name, and that pissed me off even more. But like by the time I graduated, I had another teacher who was like, "You're good, borderline great, and like if you keep putting in the work, like you can get to that great level." So I want to give that first motherfucker credit for pushing me and pissing me off so much that I worked harder to prove his ass wrong. And that second teacher for, you know, lifting me up and telling me I was on the right path. Because I think you need both of that in life. I think, you know, Dan, I had this saying I said to you many years ago. You may or may not remember it. But I one time said to you, when the wolves know the humans are watching, that's when they stop being wolves.
Yep, that's right. I do remember that. Yeah, hell yeah. I think a through line here is the idea of visibility, because in Tyler's example and in your second,
I'm crying.
Yeah,
Everyone's crying on this pod.
But like in Tyler's example and in your second example, it's like those are moments where somebody sees you. But then in the first portion of yours, Jack, that is also important, like you said, where somebody doesn't see you, and it's because if somebody sees you and they have criticism, you can tell. And you can use that. That's real constructive criticism, because like they really do understand what you're going for, and they see you and they recognize you, but it still isn't working for them. That's fine. Absolutely. Yes. But when someone like your teacher does not see you and they're being critical, then it's only you don't have to pay any attention to it. You could just add it as fuel to the fire.
Absolutely. The perfect middle ground of that is I had another teacher who, in a way, I think was saying what teacher number one was saying to me, but like in an actual constructive way. She was saying, she's like, I really love what you're doing and like the stuff that you're making, but like I don't see like how it's you. Like I don't necessarily get like your point of view from it. It feels like it could be from anyone else. And I feel like that's what that guy was trying to say, but he's just a dick piece of shit and didn't know how to say it. And this other teacher, it was like knew how to like actually be a teacher and like lift you up still without like making you feel like garbage.
Yeah. And I think constructive criticism, I mean, it was something we always discussed in high school drama, out of all of the things. Like when we gave notes, it was always supposed to be constructive. You know, you make sure you're building someone up and not just tearing them down, because nothing's just bad. There is something to critique, and nothing's perfect. There's something to critique about like almost everything besides Parasite.
Link in the description.
Shout out.
Yes. But the thing is, like, it's a thing. It's like, it needs to be constructive. You need to like take something from that. And like, when people are rude and mean, which a lot of people are, and I do live in LA now, and a lot of people are, you still like when you get something constructive and it recontextualizes another low point of your career, it makes you realize like, oh, that's not anything actually against me, because now I'm growing from it and I'm learning.
Yes, I think the idea, I mean, this speaks to our overall, the overall idea of doing this podcast about failure, but like there's always something good out of something bad. So with constructive criticism, it does still sting. It still hurts, because I think, you know, more than anyone, artists are, and even as I'm saying, like, we are artists, like it is, I do get a little acid reflex, because like, you know, it is sort of uncomfortable to say, because we're only in that transitional period. Like, we don't have crazy credits to our names to in some way, quote unquote, validate our artistry, but like, we are artists, and we're working towards being successful artists. But, you know, for artists, like, we're probably the most sensitive people on the planet, and that's part of the reason why we make art, is because we have that sort of sensitivity. But like, when criticism comes our way, it's also it can turn bad for sure. But I do think that there's always a positive in some sort of failure. And so Jack, in your example, like, it's not even necessarily a failure. It's just like, it's just that lack of visibility between you and the teacher. And I think that is an interesting thing to consider when you have a failure. Like, if you have an actual like creative failure of some sort, you write a script and somebody doesn't like it, like, maybe it actually is not a failure at all. Because, you know, some things actually are failures, even if they lead to good things. But like, sometimes
failure was when I tried out for the middle school basketball team 3 years in a row and never made it, because I'm bad at basketball.
Yeah, that's technically a failure. Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I was just bad. There's no way around it. Like, I'm not good. I'm short, and I don't run fast or jump high.
Yeah.
And I can't shoot. I'm basically useless out there.
That's bad.
I can give you A+ effort, but that's about it.
Okay, but what if...
Okay, here we go. Yeah.
But what if you had a cheat code?
If I had a cheat code?
or like, you know, like, I don't know. I fell asleep during Space Jam. I'm trying to make a reference to Space Jam: A New Legacy. Yeah. What if you had like the thing that like below made you jump high, and you could like extend your arm like Space Jam 1?
Hell yeah.
The LeBron James performance enhancers.
Because you know who was also, you know who also didn't run fast? Bill Murray.
That's an important lesson for everyone to remember, is that Bill Murray did not run fast, but he ended up
but he was on the team. Yeah, he saved the day.
Exactly. Dan,
he made it so...
Give us your failure.
Yeah, Dan, you're beating around the bush.
I know you've never failed before in your life, but...
Never had a failure in my gosh darn life.
And that was the biggest failure of them all.
Shit.
In some ways, you know what's funny is, in some ways, that's where I'm about to get to, actually, is because I've failed many, many times, but like, I'll explain. Every single time, because so in high school, I like didn't make much of anything. Anything that I had made up to that point was just like some friends goofing around. There was never like a serious short film, nothing that I would consider like sending out to a festival or anything, or even to friends for thoughts. It wasn't until we got into college and we started doing Nothing Notable, where we started making sketches, and there was a million failures in there because they were like basically my first project. And so each week, every time we would shoot a sketch, it was a million new little lessons, because it was literally like the very beginning. It was the very basics. It was like, oh, okay, I need to set the exposure a little bit. Like I figure out the exposure each week a little bit better, like small stuff, like obvious stuff like that. It's like, okay, this doesn't look the way I want it. How do I fix that? And then reset and reassess next time. So it's always been a million little failures. The one that I think has recontextualized the way I think about projects going forward is one that I've talked about already, but I'll just go through it again, just because maybe they didn't listen to the previous pods where I talked about this, but and especially because this one is going to be our introduction to millions of new fans.
Yes.
But my greatest failure is my thesis film from college. The reason that it's my greatest failure is, one, it was not very well written. And the reason for that is, when I first pitched it, it was pretty funny. It was okay. Still very unpolished. I didn't do a good enough job of explaining what I was going for in those classes and in those meetings. And so because of that, I sort of allowed everyone to workshop it into a direction that ended up not being the best for it. what I mean is like, I was going for something that was very absurdist, but I was trying to do like a very silly satire where the characters take everything super seriously. And that in that is the fun. But through some of the workshopping, I allowed it to become a little bit more like normal, for lack of a better word, just a little bit more straight. And so by the time we get to actually filming it, I sort of realized like, this is a little bit plain, and it doesn't have the bite that I was hoping it would have. So there's that level of it where like creatively, I sort of am not satisfied with where it came out as a writer. Filming it, I'm so incredibly proud of, because it was the first time I'd ever worked with a crew. And I was really in my element. I was so worried that, because I have a tremendous amount of anxiety meeting new people and being out in social settings. But so because of that, I was nervous that we would start shooting and I would not find my element and I would just crumble under the pressure. I knew I would get the film done, but like, I thought everyone was going to hate me by the end of it. I thought that like nobody was going to find me funny, which is like a reoccurring fear of mine. But I did. I found my element, and I like I nailed it on set. Like that gave me so much confidence to know that like I can make something. Like I can make a product, you know, whether it is good or bad. Like I know how to do what I'm trying to do as a career. And so I finished that night and I was really happy. I fell asleep on the couch. All the equipment was still out. I was like, I'll deal with it in the morning. But I was like very satisfied. Classic. We screened the movie. It goes over very well with the audience. The audience enjoyed it a lot. But still, just in the back of my head, I was just like, this is not as good as I wanted it to be. And it's not, and I'm not sure why. Like, I know that the writing isn't as good as it could be. That's always going to be an issue. You'll never write anything that you think is fantastic except for Parasite. But
yeah, I wish I was Bong.
I wish I was Bong too. But
no, I
what
I like me.
Hell yeah.
I like you too,
I like
buddy.
you too. And
And I
you're
like
talented.
you guys. I like both of you. And you're talented. And Eddie Redmayne's fine, okay? He's fine in my book.
Yeah, but Rob Riggle?
Not our cup of tea, right? But so what I finally pinpointed as the reason why it was sort of a failure for me, even though like it went over well, was because I didn't try hard enough. I didn't go for more. I didn't shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
I made a safe choice with the film to begin with. And so because I made a safe choice, it ended up not being the best thing that it could have been. I made a safe decision to do something that was more comedic, and I decided to do something that was less earnest and less sincere. I've been talking about this so much recently, but like I decided to do something that would be filmed at my grandma's house instead of filmed at like a location I'd have to pay for. I decided I would, use as much equipment from the cage that would be free as humanly possible, as opposed to getting like a even better camera, blah, blah, blah.
Get
It was just a
cookies
bunch
from
of safe.
Safeway instead of baking them yourself.
That's exactly. Skimp. I did not skimp out on the food. That was actually the highest part of the budget.
Steak tartare for everyone.
Steak tartare for everyone.
96,000.
96,000
to food.
Catering. But to sort of finish the story, because I'm rambling, but like the failure was not shooting or not aiming higher. And what I took out of that was like, I now know that I have the capability of like doing this, like making short films, and I can do it well. I just actually have to like give it even more. I have to like really give myself up to it. And so now whenever we do anything, I have a different, like my heart beats differently now. It's not that I wasn't in love with my thesis film. I definitely had so much love and passion for it, but it's like now I know where I have to get to when I make films. And so that failure showed me that like, if I'm not there, then it's going to be a subpar product. If I do get there, then I know it's going to be exceptional.
And the thing is, I think what I liked that we all talked about in this is that, and again, we've touched on this a lot, but it's like taking failures and like growing from them. And like, I think that's one of the hardest things to do. Cause like when I was little and when, I had a YouTube channel and
Like in the description.
everyone knows about this Apple Prune Pie, check it out. I used to just be scared of it, but I think when you face your failures, it just like helps propel you into becoming a better artist. And Daniel, I'm sure your thesis film is wonderful, and I know you think that. But also, like, yeah, I don't think anything you ever make and create is going to be perfect for you. Like, I wrote a script over quarantine that I'm very happy with, but I still hate it in a weird way.
Yeah.
But I think that's the curse of just like art in general. But I think the more you show it, the more you share it, and the more you care for it, it will grow into something really special. And I hope that for all of us, because I know we have something special to share with people.
I agree. And I think that like these failures that we have, well, I'll just speak for myself, that particular failure and any other failure I've ever had, it makes me more comfortable the next time, because to use a more sort of everyday example, I was like very nervous when I first started driving. And once I sort of allowed myself to make the first mistake, then I realized that's the worst that's going to happen.
After you total that car the first time?
After I wrecked that car and that family,
vehicular manslaughter a couple times, you're never scared to do it again?
Yeah, I realized nothing worse could possibly happen. No, but just like, I was so rigid behind the wheel, and then I realized like I can loosen up,
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with making films. Like once you make that mistake, once you make a sketch for nothing notable and the exposure is wrong, like it's just bad.
Which one was
like? It was a bunch of them, but particularly Chair. Chair, just the exposure is awful. It's way too bright. Once you make those mistakes, though, you grow more comfortable and confident, because the greatest fear is that you're going to make a mistake. Once you make the mistake, you realize that that's not something to be afraid of at all.
It's like talking. Like when you're like, at least for me personally, I was always scared to like speak up in classes and stuff, because I was like, whatever I'm going to say is going to sound so fucking stupid, and everyone's going to hate me. And the real thing is no one's listening.
Yeah, everyone's like thinking about themselves. So like at the end of the day, like why? Like this guy yelled at me the other day at work because I didn't remove all the mushrooms from his fucking sandwich. And at the end of the day, I was just like,
my bad, bro.
Like, my bad. A lot worse stuff could have happened to you today. And like, let's move forward.
Well, little did you know, he was actually allergic to mushrooms. And by not removing all of them, he was going to he died.
No, because he specifically said like, what if I was allergic to mushrooms, huh? And it was like, well, you're not, so it's all good. Also, yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting to, if I may discuss just how this whole YouTube channel has just gone for us. I mean, I don't think any of us would have thought it would have been like this, 4 years ago. But the thing is, we're still doing it. We're doing the best we can right now with it. And the thing is, like, I don't think any of it really matters for us, because we are just doing it for us. And again, we've said this a lot, but like, I'm not sure if we said it on mic, but I'm pretty sure we have. Like, this is like a time capsule for us.
Yeah.
And I just really like how that has formed over the years, because I remember like at the beginning all of us were like, oh, let's like make a YouTube channel and try to get like subscribers and viewers and stuff. But I think at one point it turned into like, no, this is like a thing for us. And I think that also in a weird way is the most important thing about art, is like you're doing it for you. And I know I can talk about this for hours, but there's a lot of things in art and in collaborations that I've done before where like I end up not liking something, and I should have just done it for myself because that's who I'm making it for at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. I think two things that you were hitting at there was, one, talk about a failure that turned into a positive. This whole channel started as a failure. It was a whole nother thing. That we shot a sketch, and like we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't really have a script. We kind of just were like loosey-goosey trying to shoot something, and it just didn't work. And then we kind of tossed it in the we just tossed it away, and then like we didn't do anything for like quite some time.
Dude, I fucking rubbed mustard on myself in a shower.
Yes.
Rainy Day Productions. I forgot about that.
Yes, we had a whole channel. It was Rainy Day Productions, and which is so silly because we live in a place that there's never rain.
We're in a drought.
We're in a drought.
A historic drought.
Yeah, but the first sketch that we were going to shoot was like sort of a getting the gang together to start a YouTube channel sketch, which like conceptually is fine.
But we didn't have a script.
We didn't have a script. It was just like it was so loose. And like for Jack's bit, it was like, I call him up and I'm trying to say like, hey, we should start a YouTube channel, which was so self-indulgent of me to be the ringleader. But
you're like the sane one in it.
Yeah, I'm the sane one. I have no issues.
And commentary.
You're in the shower rubbing mustard on yourself.
Yeah. And I'm like staring at headshots of me.
Yeah.
And then what was Kenny's thing?
Kenny was, oh God, what was Kenny doing?
Rip Kenny.
I forget. It was probably something that reflected my opinion of him at the time. Like evil.
Yeah, fuck you, Dan. Also, can I just say this so we all have it on the pod?
Sure.
Everyone thought I was a fucking pretentious asshole sometimes, but the thing is, I don't think I ever was. I think I just was like big and confident, and that turned into people being like, oh, he's an asshole who has friends named Chaz or something like that.
Yeah. I think the headshot bit also is just funny because like
I did have headshots.
Because you had a headshot and it was just like,
I think it was more of a commentary on someone else we knew who had a headshot and said, these are from
That's
my
true.
Right,
that's true.
Right.
Career.
No,
that's what it was.
Yeah. And the thing is you're right. That's so right.
That unlocked a part of my brain I had not thought of in a minute.
Totally.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but that was like a huge failure, and then we didn't do anything with it, and then we rallied the troops again, and we gave it another go, and it was much more successful the next time. You were talking about how like we started trying to do this stuff for like subscribers, and like we would still love that because like it offers us money to make other things that we want to do, and it allows us like to create an audience and like to engage, all that stuff. That'd be great, but like that's also sort of a failure because like we were trying to do this one thing for other people, and then we realized no, let's take that lesson of like us not succeeding and not gaining subscribers.
This is the least commercially successful podcast ever.
I do remember, sorry, this is another tangent, but we're doing this.
It's all making it.
When I was pitching the Fargo thing, when I was like, we should do a weekly Fargo recap, I was like so worried no one would fucking watch it. I'm like, there's no way. Like, and I'm like, but the thing is, I started that being like, I want to do this, and I want to like just recap Fargo all the time, and like Dan was like down to do it with me. And Jack was almost down. You were like, Chris Rock's in this season, so maybe I'll like watch it. And then you're like, nah, I won't. And then what turned out we found like a really like nice little community that like appreciated Fargo. And like, again, we didn't go, I know I didn't, I don't know if you did Dan, like I didn't go in it thinking anyone would watch it. I'm just like, you know what, like, maybe a few people here and there, but then we got like a nice little comment section, and like, I think that was a lesson within itself. This whole channel has been, definitely.
And I also think like this is more broadly speaking, like how I've felt as the pods have gone along, but just make it sort of specific about the Fargo pods. Like the reaction that we got from that small community sort of gave me confidence that like our opinions on media, on film, on television are like valid. They're of interest to other people. And it's not just like, because there's a lot of podcasts with friends just talking to each other about movies and TV shows that are, very not good, no disrespect. But like the response that we got, it was like, no, you guys actually have like good, like critical analysis basically of Fargo. Yeah. And I think also just like with this pod broadly.
You interviewed Edwin Lee Gibson.
Yeah, we interviewed an actual like actor. Yeah, which was so crazy. But like then more broadly, just like doing this every single week, I feel so much more confident in my ability to articulate myself, which is, always been a lifelong issue, like being shy and having low self-esteem and just being honestly just bad with English. Like I don't have the words and I don't think fast enough to form sentences. And
being not well with English, Dan.
thank you. I think we've done that once before on the pod, actually. I think that was a joke once before. But because of all those things, just language has always been so tough for me, but doing this every single week and in some ways failing every single week, you just get better and better and better every single time.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, is there anything else we need to touch on? I think we touched on a lot of things. Some very interesting. And this feels like kind of a throwback pod. I know we had a pod almost a year ago now, which is crazy that it's almost been a year ago. But it was about like our college classes, and like I think it's interesting to see our insight into things that are like strictly with us. Like we all told stories from our own lives today that like we don't usually like share that stuff. Like so like, and like sometimes it like comes up in like other podcasts, but like, you know, it's like interesting that we can like take a moment and just like talk about ourselves and see how that goes for a little bit. And we can still connect it to media, you know, like I think our lives are all perfect in the same way that Parasite is. So no, I'm kidding, obviously, but.
And ultimately, we talk about movies and TV shows all the time, and we do have some good analysis, I think, but we are experts on ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we're not. I don't know. Maybe we're always a work in progress, but we could talk about ourselves with more authority than we can about anything else. So I think this was a very successful pod. Any final thoughts before I wrap it up?
I just want to say, and again, I know I've said it a lot, I think you guys are a couple of my best friends. I love that we talk a lot, like on podcasts and just in general every week. I would take a bullet for all of you. Even Kenny. I miss Kenny. But I'd take a bullet for him too. Shout out to Kenny.
Who Kenny is, comment below.
He's working, he's working in San Diego now, which is awesome. He's grinding.
He's so fucking cool.
Yeah, he's awesome. But you guys are
without any sarcasm.
Yeah, no. And you guys are just, very talented, and I'm so lucky to have you in my life and to be going on this weird journey with you in our 20s.
Hell yeah.
And onward.
Exact same sentiment. Love you guys. To my teacher out there, fuck you, you piece of shit.
Let him know.
I feel like I've said too much already, so I won't say his name, but what's he gonna do? I'm done. I was gonna keep going. I'm done. Cut a little bit of that out, please.
All right. I also echo your sentiments, Tyler. I love all of you, all 7 of you in this chat room right now.
We got a whole crew here. We got Mikey on sound. Jessica's doing lights.
That would be insane if we had like a lighting setup for an exclusively
my lighting
audio
setup here with my damn one light bulb. I'm in a dark garage.
Yeah, it is beautiful. No, but definitely love you guys, and it's going to be a wonderful lifetime of friendship for the 3 of us, and for Kenny, even though Kenny's not here, and for the other people that are here, they're recording and lighting and running sound. But I think this was a wonderfully successful podcast, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I want everyone in the comment section below to tell us that we're talented and that you love us.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what they have to do now.
Please, we need it. Okay. But seriously, thank you so much if you listen all the way through. We really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, do let us know, because we could do this more often and it would be really easy and really enjoyable. So thank you so much for listening. This has been the Nothing Notable podcast. I've been Daniel.
I've been Jack.
And I've been Tyler.
And thank you again for listening.